Bailiff.
Good morning. Probate court number 2 is now in session. Honorable Pamela Medina presiding.
All right, thank you. I call cause number 498-547 in the estate of Barbara Nell Merritt on application of administration. Ms. Hatchett and Ms. Taylor, are you ready to proceed?
That is actually going to be me with the Hatchet law, Ms. Hines.
Ms. Lewis? Oh, Ms. Hines? Ms. Hines. Okay, thank you, Ms. Hines. And I'm going to need to swear in Ms. Linda Gale Hines. Oh, you are Ms. Hines. Okay.
I'm not Ms. Hines, I'm Ms. Lewis.
You are Ms. Lewis.
Hines
All
is
right.
on call as well.
Thank you. Okay. Ms. Hines, if you could unmute yourself and then raise your right hand and I will swear you in. Thank you.
Thank
Do you
you.
solemnly swear that the testimony you will give in this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Thank you. You may proceed, Ms. Lewis.
Thank you, Your Honor. And we're seeking a dependent administration only today.
Dependent. Okay.
So I will go ahead and yes, ma'am, dependent. Ms. Hines, what is your full name? Please state your full name for the court.
Linda Gale Hines.
And what is your relationship to the deceased?
She was my sister.
Where do you currently reside?
2003 Fir Tree Drive, League City, Texas, 77573.
And did Miss Barbara Nell pass away on January 26th, 2020 at the age of 69 years old?
Yes, she did.
Is it true that 4 years have not elapsed since the death of Miss Merritt prior to the filing of this application?
That's true.
And is it true that Miss Merritt was a resident of Harris County prior to her death?
Yes.
And would you estimate the assets of Miss Merritt to be described as personal property goods with a probable value exceeding $10,000?
Yes.
Is it true that this estate is not a taxable estate and that there is no need for the appointment of appraisers?
Correct.
To the best of your knowledge, did Miss Merritt will?
No.
And what efforts were made to be certain that there was no will?
I had to go through her assets in terms of all of her material, in terms of anything that I saw document wise, her mail. She just had just plenty of stuff through the banks that she banked at also.
Understood. And is it true that Miss Merritt was not married at the time of her death?
That's correct.
True.
That's true.
Miss Merritt was never married.
Never married.
And were any children born to or adopted by Miss Merritt?
No.
Is it true that Miss Merritt's father, Joel Merritt Sr., predeceased Miss Merritt on September 17th, 2006?
Yes.
Is it true that Miss Merritt's brother, Joel Merritt Jr., predeceased the decedent on June 20th, 2014?
Yes.
And is it true that Kendria Merritt and Byron Merritt, the only children born to Joel Merritt?
Yes.
And is it true that Byron Merritt, predeceased decedent as on July 5th, 2013, and that Megan Merritt and Braytron Cruz are the only children born to Byron Merritt?
Yes.
Okay. Is it true that decedent's other brother, Anthony Ronald Merritt, predeceased decedent on March 1st, 1980?
Yes.
And is it true that Kyra Merritt and Marcus Anthony Merritt were the only children born to Anthony Ronald Merritt?
Yes.
Is it true that Marcus Anthony Merritt Sr., predeceased decedent on January 14th, 2014, and that Anthony Merritt, Marcus Anthony Merritt Jr., and Markel Merritt were the only children born to Marcus Anthony Sr.?
Yes.
Did the decedent ever allow a child to live in her home and be raised as if the child were her own?
No.
In your estimation, what is the value of the decedent's personal property in this estate?
The only thing she had was an automobile that was worth like, I think the balance was $21,000.
And how much would you say the value of that vehicle? 21,000?
21,000.
Okay. And there was no real property in the estate either.
No, she sold her home before dying.
Okay. And then bank accounts, what was that like? Was that, I understand there was a Fidelity account only?
Just the Fidelity in her name.
Alrighty. And are you qualified and not disqualified as dependent administrator of this estate?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, do you mind? We'll need an actual dollar amount, and maybe it just blanked out on the Fidelity account. We'll need that dollar amount for the bond purpose.
Okay, Ms. Hines, were you able to get that dollar amount for the Fidelity account from the institution?
No, when my sister passed, I immediately started going through her assets and they called Social Security and, just tried to get the ball rolling. And I knew that her being a nurse that she had through Fidelity with her retirement. When I tried to call them several times, I received the same answer that she didn't have supposedly a beneficiary for it. They could not give me the information concerning that and that I would have to go through probate. And I called several times, and then I finally was able to get someone who was able to give me information stating that if the assets were $10,000 and more or over, then I would have to go through probate court. And then that person that I finally got the information said, I asked her, I said, well, I just need to know, how do I go about I just need to know what's in her account. And then the person would tell me, the only thing she would say is that you need to go to probate.
Thank you. Okay. So Ms. Lewis, rather, earlier you mentioned the personal property at 10,000, and then we have the vehicle at 20,000, correct? And then an unknown amount on the Fidelity.
That's correct, Your Honor.
So what bond do you propose? We can always come back and increase the bond.
Propose a minimum bond, as the car is no longer in the estate currently, and we don't know the value of the Fidelity account. And to my understanding, there's no bank accounts outside of that Fidelity account.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. You may proceed.
That is actually the only questions I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right. After listening to testimony, the court finds that there is a necessity of the administration of this estate, Barbara Nell Merritt. The court grants the request for dependent administration that admits the estate of Barbara Nell Merritt to probate, and with letters of dependent administration. Further, the court appoints Linda Gail Hines as dependent administrator with the bond amount of $13,000. Subject to filing her oath, and the court waives the necessity of appraisers. And signing that now, Ms. Lewis. And
thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome, Ms. Lewis and Ms. Hines. Thank you for your time here today, and I do apologize for the loss of your loved one.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
God bless you.
Have a good day.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. You are excused, as well as Ms. Hines.
Thank you.
I call cause number 497824 on the estate of Sandra Elisa Williams on determination of heirship and independent administration. And we'll start off with the determination of heirship. Ms. Childs and Mr. Carter, are you both ready to proceed? And are your witnesses here so that I can swear them in?
Both the carpenter, that light, I'm here ready to proceed.
Thank you.
Attorney Kay Hamilton here for Erica Charles.
Ms. Hamilton, okay. And I'm looking for your witnesses. Barry and Greenwood.
We were having issues signing in this morning, Your Honor.
Okay.
Actually need to check with my assistant and see if they ever got into it at court.
Okay, Ms. Greenwood, are you on?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Okay, so we're just missing Mr. Barry. Mr. Barry. Oh, okay. Mr. Barry was in the waiting room. All right. Mr. Barry. Okay, Ms. Greenwood and Mr. Barry, if you will raise your hand, I'm going to swear you in. Raise your right hand. Thank you. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give in this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
I do.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hamilton, you may proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Berry, could you state your full name for the court?
Julian Emil Berry.
Did you know the decedent, Sandra Elise Williams?
Yes.
All right. In what capacity did you know Miss Williams?
She was married to Greg Williams. That's her
All right.
husband.
And you knew Mr. Williams?
Yes.
About how long did you know Miss Williams?
15 years plus, about 15, 18 years.
All right. And having known Miss Williams for that length of time, did you have the opportunity to become personally familiar with her marriage and children?
Yes.
All right. And isn't it true that Gregory Lofton, Gregory Wayne Williams, Christina Lofton, Michelle Williams are the only children that were born or adopted to Miss Williams?
Yes.
All right. Isn't it true that the decedent was only married once?
Yes.
Okay. And that one time was to Gregory Williams?
Yes.
All right. And that marriage took place on about November 18th, 1989. And she was still married to Mr. Williams when she passed away on June 18th, 2019.
Yes.
And to the best of your knowledge, isn't it true that decedent died without leaving a written will?
Yes.
And to the best of your knowledge, isn't it true that decedent left no debts or no debts that were unpaid?
Yes.
And to the best of your knowledge, isn't it true that decedent left no unpaid estate or inheritance taxes?
Yes.
All right. No further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Carpenter?
Yes, I have a few. Yes, Mr. Barry, during the time of that you've known Miss Williams, Miss Sandra Williams, if there was any other relationship, do you think that you would be aware of it?
No.
In other words, there were no other relationships that would have had any children that were born or adopted to your knowledge?
No.
If you did know, you would let the court know this morning. Is that correct?
I surely will.
Now, there was never any talk about any will or anything to your knowledge. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And if you did know of any will, you would let the court know this morning.
I surely will.
Have you been promised anything, any kind of thing of value, money or anything in regard to your testimony this morning?
No,
So you are testifying to the court this morning freely and voluntarily of your own will and
Yes.
volition. Is that correct?
Yes. That's correct.
I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Hamilton?
All right, Ms. Greenwood, could you state your name for the court?
Mary Greenwood.
All right, and did you know the decedent, Sandra Elise Williams?
Yes,
In what capacity did you know Miss Williams?
we attended church together.
All right, and about how long did you know Miss Williams?
A little over 10 years, 10 to 15
All right.
years.
And having known Miss Williams for that amount of time, did you have the opportunity to become personally familiar with her family and marital history?
Yes,
All right, and isn't it true that Gregory Lofton, Gregory Wayne Williams, Christina Lofton, and Michelle Williams are the only children who were born or adopted to Miss Williams?
yes,
All right, and isn't it true that that decedent was only married once?
yes,
And isn't it true that Miss Williams was married to Gregory Williams on or about November 18th, 1989? And that
Yes.
Miss Williams was still married to him at the time of her death on June 18th, 2019?
yes,
To the best of your knowledge, did decedent die leaving any unpaid debt? Oh, no, I'm sorry. To the best of your knowledge, did decedent die with a written will? Without leaving a written will?
yes.
Okay, and to the best of your knowledge, did decedent have any unpaid debt?
Did they have any unpaid debt? No,
Yes. All right, and to the best of your knowledge, did decedent leave any unpaid estate or inheritance taxes?
no.
All right, thank you. I have no further
you.
questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Hamilton. Mr. Carpenter?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Mrs. Greenwood, during the relationship, during the time that you knew Sandra Elisa Williams, you're telling the court this morning that there were no other relationships outside of the marriage that you were aware of. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did you know of any other persons in this 10 years that you knew her to say that they were either related to her by being a child or born or adopted?
No,
And if there were, you would let the court know this morning. Is that correct?
yes,
Were there ever any discussions with you that she had a will, that she had produced a will or had a will in her possession?
no,
And you would let the court know that also this
yes,
morning. In regard to your testimony this morning, you haven't been promised or offered anything to testify this morning.
no.
I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Thank you. After hearing testimony, the court finds that the decedent, Sandra Elisa Williams, died intestate, and the court finds by clear and convincing evidence that the decedent's heirs are Gregory Wayne Williams, Gregory Lofton, Christina Lofton, and Michelle Williams. I don't have the order, Ms. Hamilton, so if you can review the order and then refile that order. And there were ad litem's fees. Did both parties agree to those?
We have, Your Honor, and I have been paid the fee.
Okay, I'll sign this order then. Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. You are excused. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Your Honor. It's a pleasure being before the court.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Greenwood and Ms. Berry, you are also excused. Thank you for your time and sorry for the loss of your friend.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Ms. Hamilton, you may proceed on the independent administration. And did Gregory Wayne Williams, is he here present? Does he need to be sworn in? Or are you giving the testimony, Ms. Hamilton?
He needs to get sworn in.
Okay, Mr. Williams? Okay, you're on mute. If you could unmute yourself and then raise your right hand and I will swear you in.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give in this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You may proceed, Ms. Hamilton.
All right. 1 second, Your Honor. I'm sorry. Could you please state your full name for the court, Mr. Williams?
Gregory Wayne Williams.
All right. And the deceased was
My wife.
your wife. And did she die on or about June 18th, 2019?
Yeah, 2019. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Give me 1 second, I lost my spot. I'm sorry. And was the decedent resident of Harris County, Texas?
Ma'am, say that again.
Had the decedent been a resident of Harris County, Texas?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And 4 years had not elapsed since she died in 2019. That's correct.
Say, I couldn't hear you.
4 years have not elapsed since she died?
No, not yet.
All right. All right. Did the decedent have any Medicaid benefits on or after March 1st, 2005?
Any what?
Medicaid benefits?
Medicaid? No, she was on my insurance.
All right. And did the decedent leave a will?
No, ma'am.
All right. And is there a necessity of administration of the estates here? Like, are we in court for a reason? Is there a necessity that this estate be probated today?
Yes.
All right. And are you disqualified from accepting the letters of administration?
Or I'm disqualified.
Are you disqualified? Yes. Are you qualified to receive the letters today to be the administrator of her estate?
Yes, ma'am.
And have you ever been convicted of a crime of theft, fraud, or any crime of moral turpitude?
No, ma'am.
All right. Is there any reason why you should not be appointed by this court as the administrator of the estate for your wife?
No, ma'am.
All right. And are you requesting that the court today grant you letters of administration?
Yes, ma'am.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Court finds there is a necessity of the administration of the estate of Sandra Elisa Williams. Court grants request for independent administration and admits the estate of Sandra Elisa Williams to probate. Letters of independent administration. The court appoints Gregory Wayne Williams as independent administrator. He's serving without bond. And I'm sorry, Ms. Hamilton, did you request the waiver of the necessity of appointment of appraisers as well?
Yes.
This is a non-taxable estate. And the court waives the necessity of the appointment of appraisers. Again, as soon as you get your order in, we'll sign it. Typically, we're signing the orders right after the hearing. Ms. Hamilton, and I'm so sorry, Mr. Williams, for the loss of your wife. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you,
ma'am.
May we be excused, Your Honor?
Yes, Ms. Hamilton. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Williams, as well. You may be excused.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ma'am.
Have a good day.
You as well.
Thank you. I call cause number 510263 in the estate of Clovis, Warren Russell, aka Warren Russell, aka CW Russell, on application of the termination of heirship and independent administration. We'll move forward with the determination of heirship. Ms. Elkelkamp and Mr. Allen, are you both ready to proceed? And are witnesses here and ready to be sworn in?
Yes, Your Honor, everyone's here.
Okay. Ms. Applecamp, you're a little low. I can barely hear you.
Okay, closer. Is that better?
Yes, that's better.
Okay.
All right. And who are your two witnesses on the airship?
Ellie Russell and Doris Russell.
And your Clovis as well, Clovis Russell
Yes.
is on the individual. Okay. I will go ahead and swear in all three at this time. So Russells, if you would please raise your right hands. Thank you. And make sure you're not muted. Thank you. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give in this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Eckelkamp, you may proceed.
Your Honor, I'd like to start by calling airship witness Ellie Russell.
Yes, ma'am.
Ellie, can you please state your name for the court?
My full name is Shirley Alita Russell, but I go by Ellie.
And how is it that you knew the decedent Clovis Warren Russell?
He is was my first cousin. Our fathers were brothers.
And you feel that you're fairly confident in being able to testify to his airship, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. We were very close. He was one of my best friends as well as relatives.
And in fact, you were neighbors, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
For a number of years.
Yes.
Is it true that your cousin passed away on September 10th of 2022 in Houston, Harris County, Texas?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you know whether your cousin had a valid will when he died?
He did not. He had attempted to have a will many, many years ago, but it wasn't signed. So it was not a legitimate will.
And in fact, there was a typed written note by your cousin that he signed and dated, but it had not had witnesses on it at the time that just prior to his death. Is that correct?
That is correct. In fact, my mother was in the hospital a few days before Warren passed, and he had, we had a will drawn up for my mother, and he was saying that he needed to have one. He knew he did not have a good will.
Okay.
My screen went black. Okay, there it is.
Are you there?
Come on.
Okay. You
Went
gotta love
black again.
technology. And
Yeah.
to the best of your knowledge, did he just have the two children when he died?
Yes, ma'am. He only had the two boys.
Are those two boys Clovis Aaron Russell and Forrest Victor Russell?
Yes, they are.
Are you aware of whether your cousin ever fathered or adopted any additional children during his lifetime?
He did not. Or if he knew of no other children, is all he had were the two boys.
And he was not married when he died, is that correct?
That is correct. He was
But
not.
he was cohabitating with someone at that time, is that right?
Yes, he had a woman that he was trying to help, and I believe he had was letting her live in the house or rent a room for him. I don't know.
And he was previously married twice during his lifetime, both
Yes.
to Patsy Louise Russell and Virginia Sue Russell, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
And is it true that both of those marriages were terminated by divorce during his lifetime?
That is correct.
Did one of those ladies have a daughter during the time that they were married?
No, they did not. His Patsy was the mother of the two boys, and then Jenny was not a long-term marriage, really.
Sissy. And so Jenny was a daughter of one of his girlfriends. Is that correct?
No, Jenny was his second wife. He dated a woman by the name of Janice Eubank, and they had lived together. When the boy's mother passed away, Warren took custody of the boys. I want to say that Forrest was maybe 16, about to be 17 or just barely 17. So he was still a minor. And Aaron, of course, is 1 year older. So he would have been 17 or 18. When the Warren got the children, he moved in with Janice. Eubank, or they lived together at that time. She kind of helped him with the boys because the boys were traumatized from losing their mother. But Janice had a fully grown daughter by the name of Brooke, who was, I don't know, 19 or 20. She was not Warren's child, but she, you know, they treated each other like family.
But he never legally adopted her, is that correct?
That is correct. He did
Even
not
though
legally
he
adopt
did
her.
treat her as a daughter.
Correct.
And
And he never married Janice.
And are you familiar with whether the decedent owned property in the Harris County area?
Yes, ma'am, he did. He owned a house.
And to the best of your knowledge, you're stating today that he was not married at the time that he died and that he fathered 2 children during his lifetime, Clovis Aaron Russell and Forrest Victor Russell. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And have you been promised anything in return for your testimony today, or do you have an interest in this estate in any way?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Your Honor, I have no further questions of this witness.
Thank you. Mr. Allen?
Yes, Ms. Russell, my name is Bill Allen. You and I visited on the telephone some time back. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir, I sure do.
And in our discussion, you told me that Mr. Russell was married to Patsy and that marriage ended in divorce in 1980. Is that correct?
Sir, I'll be honest with you. I don't remember what year they divorced, but that sounds about right. The children were pretty small. And I believe they were born in 74 and 75.
And he was married to Virginia and that marriage ended in divorce in 1985.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now we discussed and you told me that he had brought these other children in to his home as you testified this morning. And even though he may have had custody or they may have lived in his home, that you told me he never really considered them as his children.
No, sir. A little bit of confusion there. The boys, when he divorced Patsy or Patty, she kept primary custody of the children. When she passed away, when they were teenagers, Warren immediately got custody of them. So they are his 2 children by blood.
I'm speaking primarily of the woman that he had come live with him that had children that came into his home. He didn't consider those as his children. He was just helping out.
That would have been, as far as I know, he never took any children other than his 2 boys into his home because Jenny never had children that I'm aware of. And when he did get custody of the boys, he lived with Janice Eubank, and her daughter was already grown and had already had her own apartment.
Okay, and the woman that he was living with when he died, he never considered her as his wife, just a friend that he was helping out, and that he never intended to be married to her.
That is correct.
So as far as you know, and based upon your lifetime acquaintance with Mr. Russell, that he was not married at the time of his death, and he had 2 children, Clovis Aaron and Forrest Victor. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
He never adopted anyone else and never brought anybody else in his home that could be considered an adoption by estoppel.
That is correct.
Yeah, I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Eckelkamp, your second witness.
Your Honor, I would like to call Doris T. Russell.
Hello?
Doris. Hi, Doris. Can you please state your name for the court?
Doris Teague Russell.
Doris, how are you related to Clovis Warren Russell?
I am his aunt by marriage.
And is it true that he passed away on September 10th of 2022 as a resident of Harris County, Texas?
That is correct.
Was Mr. Russell married at the time that he died?
No, he was not.
But he was previously married to Patsy Louise Russell and Virginia Sue Russell. Is that correct?
That's what I understand. I know he was married to Patsy, and the other lady I did not know well. I did meet her, but I did not know her well.
And is it your understanding that both of those marriages were terminated in divorce?
Yes,
And to the best of your knowledge, did the decedent own property in Harris County, Texas at the time that he died?
yes, he owned a house.
And is it your understanding that Clovis Aaron Russell and Forrest Victor Russell are the only children of the decedent?
That is correct.
Have you been promised anything in return for your testimony today?
No,
And do you stand to inherit anything from this estate?
no.
Your Honor, I have no further questions of Doris Russell.
Thank you. Mr. Allen?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Russell?
Yes,
My name is Bill Allen, you and I visited on the telephone. Do you remember that?
yes, sir, I do.
The only point I would like some clarification on, I think everything's been covered pretty well, but he did have a woman living with him at the time of his death, and he did not consider her as his wife, and he did not introduce her to anyone as his wife, that he was simply someone he was helping out,
That is correct.
and that he had no children in his home that he considered his children. They may have been there to be helped out or to visit, but the only children he had that he considered his children were Clovis Aaron and Forrest Victor.
That is correct.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Russell and Ms. Russell, for your time today, and I sincerely am sorry for the loss of your family member. After hearing testimony, the court finds that the decedent Clovis Warren Russell died intestate. The court finds by clear and convincing evidence that the decedent's heirs are Clovis Aaron Russell and Forrest Victor Russell. Sign the document. And are the ad litem's fees agreed to by both parties? $700?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Find that now. Thank you, Mr. Allen. You are excused.
Thank you so much, Your Honor. I'm leaving the courtroom now.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Epelkamp, you may proceed on the independent administration.
Your Honor, at this time, I would like to call my client, Clovis Aaron Russell. Mr. Russell, can you please state your name for the court?
Clovis Aaron Russell.
And how is it that you were really related to the decedent Clovis Warren Russell?
He was my father.
And to the best of your knowledge, did he pass away on September 10th of 2022 as a resident of Harris County, Texas at the age of 71?
Yes,
And it has not been 4 years since your father died, is that correct?
correct.
And so far as you know, did your father have a valid will at the time that he died?
He did not.
And you and your brother Forrest Victor Russell are the only children of your father, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And both you and Forrest have agreed in writing, and it has been filed with the court, that should the court choose to appoint you as the administrator of your father's estate, that you are to serve independently without bond, including a power of sale for real property. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And to the best of your knowledge, there is a necessity for your administration of your father's estate. Is that correct?
Yes,
And you have asked that the court waive the requirement of appraisers and that this estate does not exceed the thresholds for a taxable estate for death tax purposes. Is that correct?
yes, that's correct.
And you are qualified and able to serve as the executor of this, the independent administrator of this estate to serve without bond. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time, we would ask that you make the appointment of Clovis Aaron Russell to serve as the independent administrator of the estate to serve without bond and with a power of sale for real property.
Thank you. The court finds that there is a necessity of the administration of the estate of Clovis Warren Russell, that all distributors agree to the independent administration and appointment of Clovis Aaron Russell. The court grants the request for independent administration and appoints Clovis Aaron Russell as independent administrator. The court further waives the appointment of appraisers, and he shall serve with no bond, subject to filing his oath. Mr. Russell, I'm sorry for the loss of your father, but thank you so much for your time here today.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome, and I'll sign the order now. Thank you, Ms. Eckelkamp.
Thank you.
Have a great day. You are excused. I call cause number 510218 in the estate of Catherine Louise Stinson on application of determination of heirship and independent administration. Mr. Ablasa, are you ready to proceed on the heirship? And Mr. Pierce, are you both here, and are your witnesses here?
Your Honor, this is Ken Pierce, the attorney ad litem. I am present.
Trying to figure out how to exit.
Mr. Ablasa?
apparently
Your Honor, can you hear me?
muted.
I'm having had some technical issues.
I can hear you.
Okay. All right, thank you. I apologize. My computer just restarted. I need 1 minute to pull up my documents. I apologize.
Ms. Gibbon, are you here? And Ms. Sean or Mr. Sean Colon, are you here? You'll need to unmute, and I'll need to see your video. Sean Colon, Deborah Gibbon.
Your Honor, Sean Colon decided not to attend. We have another witness.
We have a substitute witness, Your Honor, that has personal knowledge.
Okay, and their name?
Elke Glass.
Okay, I'll need to swear in both Elby Glass and Deborah Gibbon. I'll need to see their name, their hands raised, and I'll need to hear them say I do, or I affirm, or I swear. So I'll need their mute button off, and I'll need to see video on Elby Glass and Deborah Gibbon.
Hold on. Okay.
Okay.
Your Honor, Elke Glass was having trouble with her audio.
Hold on 1 second.
I'm sorry, I'm messaging Elke Glass now to tell her she's trying to log in again so you can see her.
Okay, we'll wait. Hold on.
Okay, she had logged in with just by the phone number. She's in Florida. She was having difficulty.
Does anybody see her on the screen?
No, she's not on the screen yet. I did see her. I saw her phone number on there.
Oh.
But not her face.
Okay. Okay, let me check. No, I don't have anyone in the waiting room.
Yeah, she says she's trying again.
Okay, thank you.
So sorry.
Not a problem, it happens.
before we could see her, but she didn't have volume. So hopefully now she'll have everything.
And I really only need to see her hand and hear her voice. And then if, if she needs to go back to no video, that's fine during testimony. It's just for the swearing in. I have to see the hand and I have to hear the I do.
Absolutely.
Your Honor, if I may interject here, this is Ken Pierce, the attorney ad litem. There is a 912 area code telephone number. I believe that is Georgia. When I spoke with Ms. Glass yesterday, she told me that her area code was 912, but she lives in Florida. So I'm wondering if that 912 number, which is muted, is in fact her telephone number.
It is, yes, sir.
Yeah, and I've asked her to mute, but we still need video.
I understand.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce.
She's trying.
Okay. All right, what we'll do is go ahead and go on to the next cause of action, and then we'll come back to you all. Thank you.
Sorry.
No problem. I call cause number 495387 in the estate of Arthur Monroe Smith on application of independent administration. Mr. Pratt, are you ready to proceed?
Sieber, Your Honor, I'm filling in for Mr. Pratt.
Okay.
And yes, we're ready to proceed.
Okay. Mr. Eber, are you giving testimony and do you need to be sworn in?
I'm an attorney, Your Honor. The applicant will be giving testimony today.
Okay.
Kenneth Smith Tolbert.
Miss Tolbert, if you would please raise your right hand and I will swear you in. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give in this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. You may proceed, Mr. Eber.
Thank you, Your Honor. Please state your name for the record.
Anita Smith Tolbert.
And what was your relationship to the decedent, Arthur Monroe Smith?
He's my brother.
And Arthur Monroe Smith, the decedent, died intestate on June 30th, 2020 at 6425 Sandpiper, Houston, Texas, 77096 at the age of 71 years, and 4 years have not elapsed since the date of the decedent's death. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the court has jurisdiction and venue because the decedent had a fixed place of residence in Harris County. Is that correct?
Correct.
The decedent owned property generally described as real property, cash, personal effects, and household goods with a probable value in excess of $15,000. Is that correct?
Correct.
And to the best of your knowledge and belief, the decedent died without leaving a valid will. Is that correct?
Correct.
The decedent was married once during his lifetime to Floyd Jean Smith, which began on December 11th, 1972, and had ended upon divorce on May 26th, 1981. And the decedent was not married at the time of his death. Is that correct?
Correct.
The decedent, excuse me, the decedent did not leave any children during his lifetime, either by birth or adoption, and the decedent did not take any children into his home to raise as his child. Is that correct?
Correct.
And the names and residences of all of the decedent's heirs and the relationships of each heir to the decedent are all listed in the application to the best of your knowledge, and that's all true and correct. Is that right?
Correct.
And a necessity exists for the administration of this estate, specifically to collect and distribute assets of the estate and to resolve and pay various expenses against and debts against the estate. Is that correct?
That's correct.
The citation has been served and returned in the manner and for the length of time required by the Texas Estates Code. Is that correct?
Correct.
And it has been determined through a proceeding to declare heirship that the heirs identified in the application referenced constitute all of the decedent's heirs and are all distributees of the decedent's estate. Is that correct?
Correct.
And all of the distributees have agreed on the advisability of having an independent administration and have designated you as the independent administrator of the decedent's estate. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you are entitled and qualified to receive letters of independent administration and you are not disqualified by law from serving as independent administrator and are entitled to such letters without bond or other security. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you have reviewed all the information contained in the application and all the information is true and correct. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Eber. The court finds that there is necessity of the administration of the estate of Arthur Monroe Smith, and that all distributors agree to the independent administration and appointment of Kenitha Smith Tolbert as independent administrator. The court grants the request for independent administrator and
Back door open.
the court appoints Kenitha Smith Tolbert as independent administrator. The court also waives the necessity of the appointment of appraisers. Ms. Smith Tolbert will serve without bond and admits this estate to probate. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Eber. I've signed that. Ms. Smith Tolbert, so sorry for the loss of your brother.
I appreciate that, Judge. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you as well.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Eber, you may be excused. Ms. Smith Tolbert, you may be excused as well.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
You too.
Bye-bye. Okay, I see Ms. Gibbon and LB Glass. Are we still not?
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I believe she's still having issues with her getting connected. She says she can see and hear people, but we can't see her. She's on her cell phone. My apologies.
Is there anyone that could call her by FaceTime and then just put her FaceTime screen
absolutely.
up, and then I can just swear her in, and that's all I really need is just to be able to see her hand risen.
Yes,
raised.
Your Honor. Give me one second. Let me FaceTime her.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry.
No need to apologize.
Your Honor, can you hear me? I've seen technical issues.
Mr. Abasa, I'm sorry, I'm not sure who that was. It just spoke.
Yes, that was Attorney Nicholas Abaz. I was making sure the court could hear me because I was having a tech issue.
Yes, I do hear you.
Thank
Your voice isn't connecting directly with your motion, so that's why I didn't know if it was you or not. But yeah,
No, I
do
understand.
hear
Okay, everyone's back now.
you. Okay.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I'm doing my best. She must have a really old phone.
Oh, doesn't have FaceTime. Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to get her. I just wanted to let you know, because I didn't want you to hear all the ringing.
Okay, but that 912 is her?
It is, yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm gonna ask her to unmute, and then I'm gonna see if there's also a hide non-video participant. No, but anyway, I don't know.
Okay.
And maybe if she sees buttons on her phone, she may press those buttons. Press 8 to unmute is what I'm being told by my brilliant clerk. And then video. Oh, she's gone.
Okay, I got her. So sorry.
Fantastic. Okay.
Oh, can you see her? You need to swear in, Elke.
Okay. Yes. Helvie, I'll need to see your right hand raised.
Can you see her, Your Honor?
Just pull her back just a bit.
I just see a glare.
Yeah, your right hand raised. You can put it right next to your head. I know I can see your fingers. Yes, perfect. Ms. Gibbons, I'll need you to as well. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give in this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Yes. Thank you. All right. Mr. Abasa, you may proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. Before we get started, I have my phone as a backup in case I crash again. I'm not sure what's so.
I can hear you.
Okay, but my phone's in the waiting room in case something happens. Okay. So,
okay.
Miss Pine, can you please tell the court your full name?
Yes, Deborah Hunter Pine.
We're going to move forward with the Heirship first, which would be Miss Glass and Miss.
Right. I was just gonna let Miss Pine just kind of give an introduction to who everyone is and the background so that the witnesses can agree more succinctly.
Okay.
But we can go with Miss Glass if you prefer, Your Honor. I apologize.
It's whatever you want. I just need Heirship witnesses to prove it up.
So, Ms. Glass, please tell the court your full name.
My name is Elke Glass.
Okay. And you knew Miss Stinson, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And you're familiar with her family history?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And she was not married at the time of her passing, is that correct?
No, sir.
Am I correct in saying that she was unmarried?
That's
at
correct.
the time of her passing. Okay. And that am I correct in saying that she didn't have any children?
That's correct.
Okay. Am I correct that she had 3 siblings, one of which has passed away, or 2 of them had passed away, Ross and Erwin Hunter, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So she had 4 siblings total, Angela Nash, Mary Sandoval, and then 2 brothers who had passed away, Ross and Erwin. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. And that she was survived by Erwin had David Hunter, Doug Hunter, and Miss Pine as his children. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. And Ross didn't have any children. Is that correct?
No, sir.
Is that correct, ma'am?
Yes, sir. That
Or
is
am I
correct.
incorrect? Can you hear me?
Did not have any children.
Okay. And that Irwin just had the 3 children I mentioned, David, Doug, and Miss Pine. Is that correct?
There was also Eric, but he is deceased.
Okay. And did Eric have children?
No,
Okay. And as far as you know, Stinson did not have a will. Is that correct?
that's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. And how did you know Miss Stinson so well?
She was my sister-in-law at one time.
Okay. Can you explain the court? Like you were married to who?
I was married to Irwin, which is her brother. And I was married in 1977, and that's how long I've known Miss Stinson.
Okay, thank you. And you don't have any financial interest in this, in your testimony here today, am I correct in saying?
No, sir, I do not.
You do not have any financial interest, is that right?
No, no, sir, I have no financial interest.
We're not accept reward.
Okay. Okay. Your Honor, I passed the. Mr.
Can I
Pierce.
proceed, Your Honor?
Mr. Pierce, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Glass, this is Ken Pierce. I am the attorney ad litem appointed by the court. You and I spoke yesterday afternoon. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. And when we talked about Kathy Stinson, Ms. Stinson, the decedent in this case, you confirmed to me that she had 2 sisters and 2 brothers. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
All right. And both of her brothers are deceased. They're no longer with us. Is that right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay. But her 2 sisters are still living, and those sisters are Angela Nash and Mary Sandoval. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Ms. Stinson herself, Kathy, had no children born to or adopted by her.
No, sir.
Okay, so no children. All right, so her only heirs would be the children of Irwin, her deceased brother. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
And that would be Deborah Pine, who is the applicant in this case, and David Hunter and Doug Hunter. But Eric is deceased, and he had no children. Is that right?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. So as far as you know, did Ms. Stinson, Kathy, the decedent in this case, have a will? Did she ever talk to you about having a will?
No, sir, she did not.
Okay. So as far as you know, she did not have a will. Is that right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. And you have not been promised anything of value for your testimony today. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And we have already established that you're not a beneficiary of her estate, but only the children of Irwin, her deceased brother, are going to be inheriting from Ms. Stinson. Is that right?
Yes, sir, that's right.
All right. Your Honor, I'll pass the witness.
Thank you. Mr. Abasa, your second witness, please.
Sorry, is Dre available?
It's Deborah Gibbon.
Or is Deborah Gibbon, sorry.
Yes, I'm here.
Can you tell the court your full name?
Pardon?
Can you tell the court your full name?
Deborah Lynn Gibbon.
Okay. Do you agree with the testimony of the prior witness?
Do I agree with the testimony of the lady that just spoke?
Yes.
Yeah, all except for I thought that Angela and Mary would also be,
They are. I think he was
Yes.
characterizing that Miss Irwin didn't have that Miss Glass didn't have an interest by virtue of being married to Irwin. So just to reiterate, and of all,
Mr. Boz, I think you're frozen.
yeah, you're choppy. You're choppy a little bit there.
You're actually frozen now, Mr. Abasa. So if you want to call, okay, there you are.
Can you all hear me, Your Honor?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, so sorry, I'm not sure where we left off. So Angela and Mary Sandoval are still alive, and they're the surviving siblings of Miss Stinson. Is that correct?
Right. And
okay, and she had two deceased siblings.
Yeah, and the brother's kids.
Right, and those being Deborah, and Doug and David, and then the deceased one that had no children. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Are you familiar? And how did you know the deceased Miss Stinson?
Well, she's my husband's aunt, my mother-in-law's sister.
Okay. And how long have you known her?
Off and on since 1985.
Okay. And you feel like you have personal knowledge of the family history?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And you think you would have heard of a will if there had been one? Is that fair to say?
I think I would have, but I don't know. I don't know her personal financial information, but I know she didn't have any kids, and I don't think she had a will.
Okay. And lastly, have you been promised any sort of financial consideration for your testimony?
No.
Here today?
No, nothing.
Okay. I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Abasa. Mr. Pierce?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Gibbon, I'm sorry if I gave you the impression that I was excluding Angela Nash and Mary Sandoval. Yeah, they are. They are.
Well,
also
I just wanted to verify, to say what I thought that they were doing, but whatever.
Okay. Yes, they will be considered heirs of the estate along with the 3 surviving children of Irwin.
Right. Right.
Okay, so we're all clear on that now.
Okay.
All right. So, so far as you know, Kathy was never, well, she was married twice, but divorced. Is that correct?
And as far as I know, yeah, that was a long time ago.
Okay. And no children were born to or adopted by her?
Nope, no kids.
Okay. And she did not take into her home any person and treat that person as if she or he or she were her own children. Is that right?
None that I've never heard of.
Okay. And she was not in a relationship with anyone at the time that she passed away, such that that person might claim spousal status.
No significant others as far as I ever heard of.
Okay. All right. And so again, you knew her because of your family relationship with her family. Is that right?
Yep. Angela's sister, Mary's sister.
Okay. All right. Your Honor, I will pass this witness.
Thank you. After hearing testimony of the court, I'm sorry, Mr. Ablesa, do you have something you wanted to add?
No, Your Honor, I apologize. I'll be quiet.
Okay, I just thought you had something. Thank you. After hearing testimony, the court finds that the decedent, Catherine Louise Stinson, died intestate, and the court finds by clear and convincing evidence that the decedent's heirs are Angela Nash, Mary Sandoval, David Hunter, Doug Hunter, and Deborah Pine Hunter. And I will sign that order now. And were the ad litem's fees agreed to by both parties?
Yes, Your Honor.
610 and 50. Okay, I'll sign that as well. Thank you. Mr. Pierce, signed your order. I'm going to pull it back up if I can find it. And then you are excused. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Pleasure
You're
being in your court.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All
And
right.
Miss Elvie Glass and Miss Given, thank you for your time today, and sorry for the loss of your friend, loved one.
Okay, well, thank you.
You're welcome. You're excused.
Okay.
Thank you. And Mr. Abasa, you may proceed with Miss Deborah Pine Hunter.
Ms. Pine, please tell the court your full name.
It's Deborah Hunter Pine.
Okay,
Deborah Hunter.
and you're a niece of the decedent, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and you're asking the court to name you the independent executor and acknowledge the waivers from all the other errors. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and there's a necessity for an administration. Is that correct?
I'm sorry.
You're asking the court to be named the administrator because there's a necessity for administration. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Correct.
Okay. And the decedent passed away here in Harris County and was living here in Harris County. Is that correct?
Correct.
And she passed away. It's been less than 4 years since she's passed away. Do you recall the date that she passed?
I was looking, but I can't quite remember, and I can't dig in my notes, but I know
Okay.
it was.
Your Honor, I just have to take judicial notice. Again, I'm having technical issues on my part, so I can't pull it up at the same time.
June 30th, 2020?
Is that
June
correct?
30th, 2020?
That is correct.
Okay. And you're qualified to serve as administrator and not disqualified. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Your Honor, unless you have any further questions from my client, I ask that you name her the independent administrator pursuant to her application, subject to the bond, or not waiving a bond and subject to her signing the oath.
Thank you, and waiving the necessity of the appointment of appraisers as well.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, the court finds that there is a necessity of the administration of the estate of Catherine Louise Stinson, and that all distributors agree to the independent administration and appointment of Deborah Hunter Pine. Is that correct?
Yes.
Hunter Pine. Thank you. The court grants the request for independent administration and admits the estate of Catherine Louise Stinson to probate for the letters of independent administration. The court appoints Deborah Hunter Pine as independent administrator and waives the necessity of appointment of appraiser. She shall serve without bond and subject to the filing. And I believe you were gonna e-file the order, so we'll wait for that and we'll sign it once we have it.
All right, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Pine, Hunter Pine. Thank you for your time today, and so sorry for the loss of your loved one.
Thank you, Your Honor, and sorry for the delay.
Not a problem. Thank you for all of your assistance as well today. We really appreciate that.
Absolutely. I want to get this rolling.
Absolutely.